Yeah, so my last video. Yeah, and speaking of everything is awesome, everything's fine, markets are great, nothing to worry about. Um, we've surpassed the debt level of 2008 now, household debt. Chinese insurer warns of mass defaults and social unrest due to mass redemption run. Why do I keep hearing like bank run, bond run, this run, that run? Why do I keep hearing those terms right now all of a sudden? This is an article from Zero Hedge. 1 month ago, China came this close to the one event which terrifies Beijing more than anything, and that is a run on China's shadow banks. As a quick reminder, 150 customers of China's Mingsheng Bank, the country's largest private bank, were furious in mid-April when they learned that some 3 trillion yuan, or for those of you that don't know, it's the Chinese dollar, the yuan, or the yuan, as some particularly people, I might even call it that myself in the past, the yuan. No, it's the yuan. Anyways, they were furious back in April when they learned that some 3 trillion yuan invested in wealth management products, the backbone of China's shadow banking system, had vaporized after employees had engaged. Tell me if you heard this one in America regarding banking. After bank employees had engaged in fraud and embezzlement, or embezzled the funds without ever investing it, like they said they would. Later, it emerged that Mingsheng employees had put the money into cultural relics and jewelry for their own use. See, we're not like Dr. Evil and Austin Powers. We're not so different, you and I. China, America, all of the rest of the world, central bank, yep. Private banks that keep us as debt slaves, yep. We're not so different, China, you and I, are we? You've got corrupt bankers, we got corrupt bankers. They embezzle, we embezzle. Dr. Evil would really like to have them on their side. And while fraud and embezzlement are both endemic in China, the bigger concern raised by the article was the threat of a bank run across China's massive and unregulated, nearly $10 trillion shadow banking system. Indeed, while there have been numerous allegations and warnings that China's entire shadow banking facade, dominated by WMPs and other investment products, is nothing but a giant Ponzi scheme in which recoveries, should there be a bank run, a topic recently discussed on Bloomberg, would be non-existent if there is ever a bank run. Defaults of WMPs issued by banks, and in this case, an unapproved WMP, are rare, as are shadow bank runs. However, in a stunning announcement made by one of China's largest insurers, named 4C Life, has warned of mass defaults and social unrest unless China's regulator lifts a recent ban on its issuance of new products. Financial products, that is. In a letter to China's insurance regulator, first reported by the Financial Times, 4C Life Insurance, which is a heavy investor in WMPs, has warned that the company expects redemptions of 60 billion yuan, or approximately 8.7 billion US dollars worth, this year, and might be unable to meet payouts unless it is able to sell new products. So just so there's no confusion, Zero Hedge wants to make this very clear for you. This is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. And now that it has been so explicitly framed, the result could be even greater redemptions, i.e. bank runs, across companies that invest in these WMPs. 4C's displeasure is linked to a December decision by the China Insurance Regulatory Commission, which banned 4C for 3 months from applying to sell new products. 2 months later, in February, the agency banned 4C chairman Yao Zhenhao, China's fourth richest man, from the industry for a whopping 10 years. questions about potential fraud at the company have remained unanswered. However, the life insurer, which allocated billions to WMPs in pursuit of yield, what else, was all too vocal in a letter dated April 28th, in which 4C asked the Regulatory Commission to resume new product approvals, quote, in order to avoid inciting mass incidents by clients and localized and systemic risks producing greater damage to the industry, end quote. So this sounds to me like an Eric Holder maneuver. We declined to prosecute any of the big Wall Street banks, especially HSBC, knowing that they did wrong, knowing they should be in prison. These people, CEOs and high up level people, should all be in prison. We've decided, because we feel that this would cause a very bad move in the markets to the economy. It would hurt them so bad that we think we're going to defer prosecution. So not only did they defer prosecution here, no one went to jail, nobody got in trouble. They got a $700 billion, $800 billion TARP fund. Remember that Trouble Asset Relief Program? That sounds like some name Dr. Eva would give it. I shall call it, trouble, the turd. I shall call it TARP. And that's how we did things here. So in a letter to the Regulatory Commission, they're saying the same thing. If you don't help us with this Ponzi scheme by allowing us to sell more quote-unquote products, which are nothing, nonsense, to bring in more money like a true Ponzi actually works, we might be responsible for taking the system down and it spreading. Contagion. Are you sure you don't want us to have new products to sell? I understand you banned the CEO, China's fourth richest man, for 10 years. But this could be devastating. This could be a Chinese national security issue in an epic economical way. Are you sure? Well, if China is going to do what we do, and by God, it looks like they have been with these Ponzi schemes, I'm not going to be surprised if we hear that the Chinese regulators decided to let them go ahead and do it. Let the Ponzi scheme continue. Here's some new products. Then the regulator can be involved and complicit in it, knowing that we should have stopped you. That's why we're here with a regulator. Regulators, mount up. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to regulate. Nope, that's a Ponzi scheme. You'd be lucky that the CEO only got 10 years of not being able to have these new products, not be able to sell that crap. And be lucky we told you that you're not selling anything new, because you could be doing some prison time. Nope, but instead what will probably happen is they'll probably approve it and let the Ponzi go on. Maybe. Then again, maybe they won't. I'd be interested to see what happens if they don't. I'm kind of a doomer at heart. I'm not that way by choice. But after seeing all this crap and nothing being done about it, but allowing it to compound and get worse, and the fleecing gets worse, and the taxpayer burden gets worse, and the debt gets worse, how does this not end in doom? You know what I mean? You have to align yourself with doom in order to do these kind of videos like I do every day and not have it bother you at all. It doesn't bother the psyche. So that's their note to them. According to the Financial Times, the term mass incidents is commonly used in China to describe demonstrations, protests, and riots. It was also used by Hank Paulson in 2008 when demanding a blank check from Congress, threatening the U.S. with widespread panic unless the U.S. banking sector was bailed out. And again, including we don't prosecute anybody because we're thinking it'll cause more harm than good to the economy, and we don't want that, do we? This warning has now moved to Chinese users of shadow banking is troubling. To be sure, this is not the first time a near-insolvent Chinese company has threatened with social unrest if it does not get a bailout. 1 month ago, China's and the world's biggest aluminum producer, China Hengqiao Group, demanded that both the Chinese Non-Ferrous Metals Industry Association and the Chinese government come to its aid, warning in its March 4th letter of serious effects if nothing is done, including regional systemic financial risks and dramatic social unrest. Yet, while the fallout from one major commodity company would be largely contained, mostly due to its own angry workers, the social panic and mass defaults resulting from the failure of China's $4 trillion wealth management industry would have far more dire implications. Some more background on the troubled life insurer, courtesy of the Financial Times. 4C is a unit of Baoneng Group, a property and financial conglomerate that Mr. Yeo also chairs. Baoneng made headlines last year by attempting a hostile takeover of China Vanke, one of China's largest residential developers. Baoneng has used the sale of so-called universal insurance products to finance its stake in Vanke and other listed companies. Such policies are essentially investment vehicles offering high yields and guaranteed payouts on maturities. Distributed through banks, they bear little resemblance to traditional insurance, which pays out only in the event of a risk incident such as a death, illness, or accident. The mass proliferation of such shadow banking products, largely as a result of deregulation of the insurance industry in recent years, has led to the sharp rise of universal insurance sales, which has helped groups such as 4C and Anbang Insurance Group to grow. As a reminder, Anbang, which has a very questionable reputation, is also one of the most prolific acquirers of global corporations as it seeks to find high-yielding targets for its shadow funds. As the Financial Times also notes, with 4C's premiums, while their premiums soared from 32 billion in, I guess that in the Chinese currency, the renminbi, same, I don't know why the hell they have the yuan and renminbi, whatever. In 2014, 32 billion to 100 billion last year. They since tumbled 61%, their premiums, in the first quarter of this year. More troubling is that the date of 4C's letter indicates that by late April, the regulator had not yet approved new 4C products, despite the expiration of the 3-month ban. We're now in the next month, May, right? In a statement on its website late on Wednesday, 4C said that the company's operations are normal and its cash flow is stable, adding that it earned 1.4 billion renminbi in profits in the first quarter. Needless to say, it wouldn't say anything else until it was too late. See China's Home Capital Group if you're unsure what that means. On one hand, the Chinese regulator's initiative to limit WMPs is a welcome change to the Chinese funding Wild West. It was observed in the latest People's Bank of China monthly credit update, which revealed that for the first time in a decade, a key component of China's shadow funding, entrusted loans, declined. The Financial Times adds that in addition to 4C, the CIRC, the regulator, has moved to contain universal insurance in recent months amid President Xi's call to curb financial risk. Analysts warn that the high yields offered by universal insurance force issuers to take risks in order to earn the returns necessary to meet promised payouts. And if the government gets involved, again, you're now ensuring that this freaking Ponzi scheme stays afloat and that everybody they Ponzi'd out of money gets their returns, gets what they were promised by the Ponzi scheme. Is this not incredible? Again, if the Chinese regulators step in and help, or the Chinese government really steps in and help. As amid President Xi's call to curb financial risk. Well, does that mean get rid of that kind of stuff because it's risky? Or does that mean go all in and help this company out because we don't want financial risk popping up all of a sudden if we don't do anything? Well, the risk was already there, of course. And again, this was the biggest problem we talked about from day one of the last collapse, 2008. This bailout, the bankers, we said they're going to just get more dangerous. They're going to get bigger. They're going to be more debt. They're going to get more derivatives products. They're going to gamble more on Wall Street because they now know we've already been labeled, and we accept the label, too big to fail. So if we do anything else in the future, we know we're too big to fail. We can't fail. We got the backing of the schmuck taxpayer. And in China, if they get involved in this, the government, they're going to be doing the same thing. And then they're going to know, and any other Ponzi out there is going to know, this is a new form of business. We've done something that could be so dangerous if the government doesn't step in that we have the whole country by the balls. We're going to be filthy rich on Ponzi nonsense, and we're going to gobble up global corporations and everything else on a freaking Ponzi scheme. Wow. Meanwhile, 4C's warning that mass redemptions could leave the group unable to meet payouts highlights the liquidity risk created by taking on short-term liabilities to purchase long-term illiquid assets. In a further crackdown on China's unsustainable shadow banking system, in May, the regulatory agency imposed a similar 3-month ban on Anbang and accused the group of wreaking havoc in the market with aggressive sales tactics. The agency specifically criticized Anbang for selling products with short maturities. On the other hand, however, while such regulatory crackdown is long overdue, should the shadow funding of insurers like 4C and Anbang be halted, the company, which by its own admission is a Ponzi scheme, would disintegrate. For now, however, it faces a more immediate challenge. What happens if 4C is not granted regulatory relief as it demands? If the insurer is unable to resume issuance of its traditional shadow funding products, and should the redemption run accelerate, the company will have no choice but to eventually demand a People's Bank of China liquidity injection or outright bailout. Considering how generous the Chinese central bank has been, this request will likely be satisfied. But a far bigger problem, one which not even the People's Bank of China would be able to contain, is what happens if accelerated redemption problems, currently limited to just 4C, spread to the rest of the nearly $10 trillion shadow banking industry. And that is also a question that I have. What then? Again, when the whole world saw these major, gigantic financial institutions gamble and lose the bet, and they get bailed out and also be labeled too big to fail, we can never fail again, and also be shown we don't prosecute anybody. What did you, again, this is what we all said from day one. What did you think was going to happen? You gave a criminal the permission, so to speak, to rob a bank. He robs it. He keeps all the money and tells you need to put a lot more back in that bank or else there's going to be some problems. You do it. We don't want problems. We don't want economic problems. We don't want people to come to the bank and there's no money there. Put the money back in there while he kept the money he robbed. And then he went back in and robbed it again. And knows it's even more now because you had to put a lot more back in there. And other banks were doing it too. So you had to put money in this bank and money in our bank, and I've robbed them all. And I'm too big to fail. Because if you prosecute me, for some reason, even though I'm a bad guy, if you prosecute me, it could have detrimental effects on the economy, generally speaking. So we're not going to prosecute the bank robber. We're going to let him keep robbing banks and just keep putting money back in the banks that he robs. That's what this is. That's what this is. Except a little different because it's a Ponzi scheme. Give me money today for an awesome return tomorrow when this thing matures and you want all the payout back. You're going to earn all the interest in the meantime, big interest. And then at the end of this time period, I pay you back in full. So you get paid back in full plus the massive interest you earned. And they have to have new people coming in every time taking their money to give them their nice high interest payments every month until it matures. And then here's the lump sum back. Here's the money we borrowed back in full. As long as you have new people coming on board, the Ponzi keeps going. When people decide, I'm okay now, I'll take my money back. Of course, they got to wait for their time, of course, but they can't seem to find new people to come in. Everyone's asking for, oh, my time's up, give me my money back. It's matured, my turn. Again, the first few people, just like a pension, first few people, no problem. Or like a bank run, first few people in the bank today, they get their money. Everybody else, you're screwed. Same thing here. So yes, this is China. It could be US, it could be Europe, it could be South America, it could be anywhere because they all have central banks. They all have privately owned globalist banking systems. Banks like JP Morgan, Citigroup, HSBC, these banks are everywhere. And China has their own. Okay? China has their own banks, not even those. And they have the same problems. Why? For the same reasons. Criminal, fraudulent activity by humans. Once again. Unfreaking believable. Tell me, someone please tell me right now, before I end this video. Give me your best shot how this is going to end well. Just give it to me. How this will just end well. We have nothing to be concerned about. It'll end fine. Someone tell me how that's going to happen, please. Take care.